Hello friends, welcome to day 9 of the 12 days of Christmas. We are going to jump right in with this monochrome mug design. So I'm starting out with my 14-ounce mug from Stainless Steel Depot. I base painted it with a mixture of Mod Podge and purple acrylic paint, and now I'm going in with my glitter. This is Pisces from Chaseray Creations, and you'll notice I'm not glittering the handle. We're going to deal with that way later, so I'm just avoiding the handle for now. After I glittered and my glue was dry, I added 2 coats of Flynn Sisters Supply Shop Fast Cure Epoxy to my tumbler, and then I did a nice good round of sanding to make sure that my cup is as smooth as possible. We're gonna do a little like mini peekaboo, I guess you could call it. We're going to paint a tree line on the bottom of this tumbler, and we're going to use a stencil that I cut with my silhouette machine. Now what we're doing is cutting out the tree line, and I'm going to remove the bottom portion of the vinyl so that you can see the silhouette of the trees underneath the vinyl, if that makes sense. So typically when you weed a decal, you would weed the area around and then you would have the decal left. We're kind of doing like a negative weeding situation here. Now the tumbler we're using is a curved one, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to apply this than it would if we were using a straight edged tumbler. So what I'm going to do is kind of cut this into different pieces as I apply it to the cup. Now this is just a stencil, it's just a template. The way the vinyl looks does not matter at all. All I'm making sure of is that all the edges of my trees are lying flat on the cup so that when we paint this area, we don't have anything lifting or crinkled or anything, and then the paint line would get messed up. But don't worry about like applying your vinyl perfectly because we're going to remove it anyway. Sticking with our monochrome theme here, I'm going to paint my tree line with the darkest purple acrylic paint that I could find. And now typically the Delta Ceramcoat paints are very, very opaque, and I usually only have to do 1 coat. But for whatever reason, this one in particular is like a little more watery. I don't know, it's a lot thinner than the ones I usually use, but it's the same brand. So I ended up having to do 3 coats of this paint to get the type of coverage that I was looking for. Now I'm not glittering this section, I know, shocker. I wanted to have a little bit of a solid tree line here without any glitter. Don't worry, we are going to add more glitter later. But if you want to glitter this section, you absolutely can do like a glittery tree line. You would just paint this, either add your adhesive into your paint or do your adhesive after, add your glitter, and then remove your stencil right away. Once that 3rd coat of paint was dry, I was ready to remove all of my stencil vinyl. Now this isn't actually stencil vinyl, this is permanent vinyl, so I did have a little bit of trouble pulling it up. But the reason I used permanent vinyl for this is 1, because I don't have any removable vinyl on hand, and 2, I wanted the vinyl to stick a little bit more to the tumbler than a stencil vinyl would. Stencil vinyl is usually my favorite for a peekaboo, but when I've got a lot of tiny little like detailed pieces that I need when I'm doing a peekaboo, sometimes I choose to do a permanent vinyl. It's not my favorite thing, but for this, I decided to use it because I've got all these tiny little pieces and I didn't want them to be lifting up as I was painting. So either one is totally fine. Also, if I had a lot of pieces to pick up, like if I was doing a peekaboo decal or like leopard print or something like that, 1000% would not use permanent vinyl. I would use stencil vinyl every single time. But these pieces like on the top are relatively easy to peel up. There's not too many tiny pieces. But anyway, that's why I use permanent vinyl over stencil vinyl, because I know somebody's going to ask me. Once I had all of my template pulled away, this is what the cup looks like. Now I'm going to go into another coat of epoxy to seal all of that paint and tree line in. This coat of epoxy is about maybe 10 milliliters. It's very thin. After that coat, I did end up doing another thin coat because it just didn't feel like enough to me, and I knew I was going to be doing a lot of vinyl and transfer taping and all of that, so I wanted to have a nice good layer of epoxy in between our painted tree line and all this other work that we're going to do now. So we've got 2 coats of epoxy on our cup. They're both very thin, but you could probably just do one like thicker coat of epoxy and be totally fine. But I did 2. So now at this point, my cup is smooth and ready for all of the vinyl detailing. And this is where the cup really comes to life. So starting off with our handle, I'm going to tape this off the best I can with my painter's tape. If you have electrical tape, that would probably be a better option because you want to get like as round of a tape job on the bottom and top as you can. But I just broke my painter's tape into a billion little pieces and it worked out fine. I'm going to paint my handle with the same acrylic paint that we used for the tree line. And again, I'm going to do multiple coats. I think I actually only did 2 coats on the handle. We are going to cover the handle in glitter a little bit later, so your paint coverage doesn't need to be as perfect as it did with the tree line because we're going to hide most imperfections with glitter, as always. We're going to let our handle sit for just a bit while we do the rest of our vinyl work after removing all of this tape. Again, sticking with the monochrome theme, I cut all of my main big decals out of some like lilac regular permanent vinyl. I also cut out some other details like these little snowflakes. I have Santa in his sleigh. I've got a little moon that I cut out. And all of these elements came from the same SVG that I got from Creative Fabrica. Well, I have one that's like the village and then another separate SVG that's got the deer and the snowman and everything, but the snowflakes, Santa and his sleigh, all of that came from the one village SVG. So I will link both of these down below in the description box if you want to use the exact same ones. And what I did was measure around the widest part of my cup, and I based the width of both of these files on the width of my cup. Now, they're not going to wrap around perfectly, again, because we're using a curved tumbler. This is going to be like expert mode. If you're using a straight edge cup, you're going to have a whole lot of an easier time, but I love these little curved mugs, especially for holiday designs. I don't know what it is. They just like, I always want to do festive designs on these cups. So anyway, I'm going to try and lay these on my cup as smoothly as I can. The village gave me a little bit of trouble because it's the longest piece and it has to wrap around the curve of the cup. So you'll see I'm kind of finagling it a little bit, but overall it actually went on pretty easily. What you could do if you wanted to make it a little bit easier for yourself is find a place to cut your decal into a smaller half. So like if there's a line in the houses or if you're using a different file, smaller pieces are always going to be better. So you'll see when I place the smaller decal that has the reindeer and the snowman in it, it was a whole lot easier to put down than the entire village row. Also, sidebar, this Flynn Sisters epoxy is so smooth and shiny that you can literally see my reflection in the epoxy. Like, how embarrassing. But also, how good of an epoxy is that, right? I didn't love how the area where the two decals met, I didn't love how that looked. So I decided to kind of cut it up a little bit, and I ended up cutting out my smaller decal again, just so I could cut out the trees and make everything flow a little bit better. Now, if you want to do this in your design software, you definitely can, but sometimes I prefer to just work directly on the surface, cut things up by hand, place them, see how they actually fit, how they actually flow, because sometimes you just can't map it out on a computer. You have to do it on the actual piece. Okay, all of our vinyl work is done and I'm ready to add more glitter. So I've got a little bit of leftover epoxy here. This is the Flynn Sisters Supply Shop Fast Set Epoxy, and it's about maybe 5-ish milliliters. And I'm using Fast Set Epoxy, one, because I had it mixed up for all my other cups, but two, because it's going to cure more quickly. I have a little bit more control over where the glitter is going to end up on the tumbler. So I don't have any epoxy on the cup right now. That's also going to help with my control and the glitter flow. If you put just plain epoxy on your tumbler and then you add this epoxy and glitter mixture, your glitter is naturally going to like flow and move around the tumbler a little bit more as it's on your turner, because you've got less resistance to work with, if that makes sense. So I'm going right in on the dry tumbler, and I'm not being super sparse with this glitter. This is Sweet Dreams from Chase Ray Creations. It's actually a glow in the dark glitter. I didn't test it to see if it actually glows in the dark because I didn't really care about that. I just like the mix of colors. It's got a lot of different purple tones in it, which goes really well with our purple theme here for this design. And I like that it kind of looks like purple snow kind of falling all over this little town. So I'm just applying that all over my entire design, the trees, the village, everything. The only thing I'm kind of trying to avoid is Santa in his sleigh, because I wanted him to not be obscured by any glitter. You could probably do the previous step and this step in the same batch of epoxy and the same round, but I didn't have that much left. I didn't think I had enough working time, so I let that round of epoxy cure on my tumbler, and now I'm going in with a second batch of epoxy. I'm still using Fast Set Epoxy though. This is about another maybe 5 to 7 milliliters, and this is for the handle. So I put in a little bit of coconut from Chase Ray Creations, and I'm going to put that on my handle area. Now, coconut is a kind of like ivory cream multi-shifty color, and you can see when it goes on a black base, it is beautiful. I really liked that it kind of has a little bit of a blue shifty tone to it, but it doesn't take away from the purple. I thought it was the perfect little cheat glitter to go over this dark purple paint and really tie everything together. And of course, if you wanted to, you could just leave your handle plain painted. You don't have to glitter it, but there were some epoxy drips and things that you could see from my previous epoxy coats on the handle under the paint, so I'm going to camouflage all of those with more glitter. So after this coat of epoxy was cured, I did a regular coat of epoxy on the entire tumbler. For that, I used the Artist Cure formula from Flynn Sisters Supply Shop, and I used about 15 milliliters. And then I thought I was done, but after looking at this over and over and over again, I just didn't think it looked finished. I didn't love how the bottom of the village, you could see the glitter, you could see the bottom of the tree line. It just looked kind of disjointed. So I ended up spray painting in like almost a panic. I spray painted the bottom of the cup black, and then I just cleaned up the line with some rubbing alcohol, and I didn't film that part because I was just, again, kind of panicking, but I made that a nice crisp line of black paint down at the bottom just to kind of make it all look finished, make it look a little bit more layered and dimensional. And then I added my final coat of epoxy. So this is the final result. I really hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. You know the drill. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up down below. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as always, and come back tomorrow for day 10 of the 12 days of Christmas. These last 3 videos I think are my favorites, and I feel like I say that every time, but I really, really, really like these last 3 that I've got coming, so be sure to come back tomorrow for day 10. Okay, love you. Bye. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. I want to say a huge thank you to my channel subscribers, channel members, and a special thank you and shout out to my elite fam over on Patreon. You all make this channel possible, and I am so thankful for you. If you want to get in on the elite experience and get a little bit of extra content from me, you can join at patreon.com/elitefam. All right, here's another video for you to check out. I'll see you there. Love you. Bye.